The Star Wars timeline can be trickier to navigate than an asteroid field. Since our first trip to that galaxy far, far away in 1977, we've seen the fall of a republic, the rise and fall of an empire, the rise and fall of another republic, and now a First Order has risen to become top dog. There's enough history there to make R2-D2's memory banks short-circuit, and not just in the 10 and counting movies, and 3, soon to be 4, TV shows. There's also loads of official novels and Marvel comics that expand the mythology of the worlds George Lucas created to epic and sometimes baffling proportions. So here's a rip-roaring guide to the key events that shaped a galaxy far, far away with our ultimate Star Wars timeline breakdown. Because Darth Vader, Han Solo and the rest don't live by the same calendar as we do, everything's measured relative to the Battle of Yavin. That's the one where Luke Skywalker blew up the Death Star in the original movie. So, Revenge of the Sith, which takes place 19 years beforehand, is described as taking place 19 years before the Battle of Yavin, or 19 BBY. The Force Awakens, meanwhile, takes place 34 years after the Battle of Yavin, in 34 ABY. So, let's get started. In 41 BBY, Anakin Skywalker was somehow conceived by the midi-chlorians and his mum Shmi, obviously. In 32 BBY, the Trade Federation escalated a scintillating trade dispute by blockading Naboo. Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn and his Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi discovered Force-sensitive Anakin Skywalker on Tatooine and saved him from slavery. Then Queen Padme Amidala led the liberation of Naboo, where Obi-Wan sliced Darth Maul in two. Palpatine was then elected Chancellor of the Galactic Republic, and Anakin started his Jedi training. Meanwhile, Jedi Master Sifo Dyas secretly commissioned cloners on Kamino to build an army for the Republic. And, perhaps most importantly, C-3PO and R2-D2 met for the first time. 10 years later, in 22 BBY, separatists made a couple of attempts on Senator Amidala's life. Obi-Wan's investigations led him to Kamino, where he discovered a fully fledged clone army. Anakin slaughtered an entire village of Tusken Raiders, men, women and children, in revenge for the death of his mother. Padme became strangely attracted to him. Then, Naboo's Senate representative Jar Jar Binks called for Supreme Chancellor Palpatine to get emergency powers to bring the clone army into service. Those clone troopers followed the Jedi into action against separatist forces on Geonosis. Jango Fett was killed in the battle, while separatist leader Count Dooku was revealed to be Sith Lord Darth Tyrannus, a man so evil he chopped off Anakin's arm in a duel. Geonosian leader Poggle the Lesser handed the separatist Death Star plans to Dooku, the Clone Wars began, and Anakin and Padme got married in secret. Their only guests were R2-D2 and C-3PO. Between 22 BBY and 19 BBY, the Clone Wars raged across the galaxy. Anakin took Ahsoka Tano as his apprentice, Darth Sidious ordered Count Dooku to eliminate Asajj Ventress, the dark-side apprentice he'd been training in secret, and Death Star construction kicked off over Geonosis. Anakin, Ahsoka and Obi-Wan met and trained future insurgent Saw Gerrera to fight against the separatists. It also turned out that, surprise, Darth Maul was alive after all. After being discovered by his brother Savage Opress, he hooked up with criminal gangs and Mandalorian hardliners the Death Watch to take the Mandalorian throne. Until Darth Sidious took matters into his own hands, that is, and slapped down his old apprentice in spectacular style. Before completing her training, Ahsoka was wrongly framed for murder, quit the Jedi Order and disappeared. As the Clone Wars reached their conclusion in 19 BBY, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine was kidnapped by separatist forces, Count Dooku was executed by Anakin during the rescue, and Obi-Wan killed the separatist cyborg military boss General Grievous. Palpatine turned out to be Darth Sidious, is there anyone who didn't see that coming, and Anakin was seduced by the dark side to become Darth Vader. Order 66 was initiated, prompting the clone troopers to turn on the Jedi and all but wipe them out. Obi-Wan then defeated Vader in a duel, critically injuring him and leaving him dependent on an iconic life support suit. Padme died giving birth to twins. Luke was left with his step-aunt and uncle, Owen and Beru, on Tatooine. Leia was left with Senator Bail Organa on Alderaan. Obi-Wan and Yoda went into hiding. 2 years later, in 17 BBY, Galen Erso was already using his energy research on the Death Star project, but a crisis of conscience caused him to do a runner from his home on Coruscant with his wife and daughter Jyn. 4 years later, in 13 BBY, Han Solo escaped captivity on Corellia, enlisted in the Imperial Navy and bagged himself a surname. Around the same time, Orson Krennic tracked down the Ersos on Lamu, taking Galen back into Imperial service and leaving Jyn to an unconventional upbringing with Saw Gerrera. 3 years later, in 10 BBY, Han Solo met his hairy best mate Chewbacca, defected from the Empire and joined Tobias Beckett's criminal gang. This was also the year Solo completed the Kessel Run in the Millennium Falcon in a record-breaking 12 parsecs. He was so impressed he won the Falcon from Lando Calrissian in a game of sabacc. Solo also helped out Enfys Nest's proto-rebels, while Kira assumed day-to-day control of the Crimson Dawn crime syndicate. Her boss? None other than a certain former Sith Lord called Maul. The rebel movement started to pick up momentum in 5 BBY. Force-sensitive Ezra Bridger joined the crew of the rebel vessel the Ghost, and fugitive Jedi Kanan Jarrus took him on as his Padawan. Over the next 3 years, former clone troopers Rex, Wolf and Gregor joined the rebel cause, while rebel informant Fulcrum was revealed to be the long AWOL Ahsoka. Inevitably, she ended up having to face her old master Darth Vader. In 2 BBY, Obi-Wan belatedly finished the job of killing Maul on Tatooine, just up the road from where Luke Skywalker was busy growing up. Mon Mothma resigned from the Imperial Senate, calling for the formation of the Alliance to restore the Republic, aka the Rebel Alliance. And the rebels relocated to their famous home on Yavin 4. In 1 BBY, Kanan Jarrus was killed, sacrificing himself to save the rest of the Ghost crew. Bo-Katan Kryze took the Mandalorian throne after Sabine Wren gave her the ceremonial Darksaber. Ezra Bridger had an audience with the Emperor before he and Grand Admiral Thrawn went missing in action. In 0 BBY, rebels secured their first significant victory over the Empire at Scarif, though in the ultimate downer, everybody involved in recovering the Death Star plans died. Princess Leia Organa was eventually captured by Darth Vader. Luke Skywalker met C-3PO and R2-D2 and took the Death Star plans hidden in R2 to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Luke began Jedi training and met Han Solo and Chewbacca. Along the way, Alderaan was destroyed by the Death Star, Leia was rescued, Obi-Wan Kenobi died, and Luke fired the proton torpedoes that blew up the Death Star. Between 0 and 3 ABY, Darth Vader recruited Boba Fett to help him hunt down the Force-sensitive young pilot who blew up the Death Star, the Rebel Alliance relocated to the distinctly chilly Hoth, and Han Solo ran into a bounty hunter on Ord Mantell who changed his mind. In 3 ABY, Darth Vader captured Han, Leia and Chewbacca at Bespin. Han ended up frozen in carbonite and was taken to Jabba the Hutt by Boba Fett. Luke faced Darth Vader, lost a hand and learned the Sith Lord is his dad. A year later, in 4 ABY, Han Solo was rescued from Jabba the Hutt, with Leia killing Jabba in the process. Yoda died, and Luke learned that Leia is his twin sister. Imperial forces intercepted the rebellion's supposedly secret assault on Endor. Luke faced Darth Vader again, this time in the presence of the Emperor. In the nick of time, Vader turned back to the good side and killed the Emperor, and the Death Star was destroyed again, despite Ewok involvement. In 5 ABY, the New Republic secured a final victory over the remains of the Empire at the Battle of Jakku. Mon Mothma signed the Galactic Concordance and the Empire was dissolved. A faction of top Imperials, led by Grand Admiral Ray Sloane and General Hux's dad Brendel, travelled through the unknown regions to start the First Order. This was also the year Ben Solo, aka the future Kylo Ren, was born. In 7 ABY, a lone gunfighter made his way through the outer reaches of the galaxy, far from the authority of the New Republic, and right now we know little else about him. In 21 ABY, the First Order started using crime syndicates to fund its increasingly military activities. In 28 ABY, the truth about Leia's Sithee parentage was leaked by her political enemies, engulfing her in a scandal that forced her to resign from the Senate. Sensing the threat of an increasingly active First Order, she formed the Resistance to keep them in check. In the 6 years between 28 ABY and 34 ABY, Ben Solo was persuaded by Supreme Leader Snoke to turn to the dark side. He trashed Luke Skywalker's new Jedi school, killed most of his fellow students, and renamed himself Kylo Ren. Luke went into exile on Ahch-To and switched himself off from the Force. Kazuda Xiono went undercover as a Resistance spy at the Colossus outpost. Poe Dameron found a map containing details of Luke Skywalker's whereabouts. Trooper FN-2187, aka Finn, defected from the First Order, decided he quite liked Poe's jacket and bumped into Rey on Jakku. The pair stole the Millennium Falcon and hooked up with Han Solo and Chewbacca. The First Order used Starkiller Base to destroy the entire Hosnian system, wiping out the whole of the New Republic's government. Then Kylo Ren killed his old man Han Solo, and in a case of Death Star-shaped deja vu, Starkiller Base was destroyed. Rey tracked down Luke Skywalker on Ahch-To. The Resistance evacuated their base on Dakar and went on the run from the First Order. Kylo Ren assassinated Supreme Leader Snoke and declared himself Supreme Leader. First Order flagship The Supremacy was destroyed when Vice Admiral Holdo piloted the Raddus through it at light speed. Luke created a force projection of himself to face Kylo Ren and died in the effort. The last few survivors of the Resistance escaped from the First Order on the Millennium Falcon. And now we've got to wait for episode 9 to find out what happened next.